I've held this story close, the fear of it still lingering in my mind, a chilling whisper from a recent past. It was an experience that truly shook me to my core during my time as a stewardess and deckhand on a 20-meter yacht. Though I've navigated the unpredictable waters of yachting for years, nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared me for the sheer terror and profound isolation I would soon face. My captain, a man I once placed my trust in, was about to reveal his true, horrifying nature, attempting to abandon me in a place I could not legally enter. I felt utterly trapped, completely alone, and genuinely paralyzed by fear. The job I'd accepted was initially meant to span until mid-October, but by the closing days of September, the atmosphere on board had grown utterly unbearable. My spirit was worn thin, my patience exhausted. There was only one inevitable path forward for me: resignation. Yet, professionalism, a principle I always deeply upheld, demanded I honor my contract's 7-day notice period. So, despite the escalating tension, I reluctantly remained on board. At that pivotal time, we were peacefully anchored in beautiful Corsica, with a pre-planned journey to the distant Canary Islands looming on our horizon. The very instant I communicated my difficult decision to the captain, his entire demeanor shifted dramatically and disturbingly. An impenetrable, icy wall of hostility rose sharply between us. He became distant, chillingly cold, almost menacing in his stark silence. Every single glance, every fleeting interaction, felt heavily charged with an unspoken, palpable threat. The cold dread of that yacht trip still lingers. What began as a routine journey quickly became a nightmare, a struggle against one man's baffling indifference. My simple attempts to clarify my disembarkation point, when and where I would leave the vessel, were met with infuriating evasion. I pressed him repeatedly, needing to plan, to understand my fate, yet he consistently brushed me off. A chilling realization slowly dawned when, nearing southern Spain, he casually declared my exit: Gibraltar. Panic surged. I immediately explained the stark impossibility. My Colombian passport demanded a UK visa for entry. I presented official government guidelines, irrefutable proof, but he outright refused to look, stubbornly insisting I was mistaken. My calm reasoning was futile. He wouldn't listen. A wave of icy anxiety then completely engulfed me. I simply could not risk detention or deportation because of his egregious neglect of basic rules. Desperation mounted. I tried to contact the management agency, but it was Sunday. No one answered. Adrift at sea, isolated, true panic began to set in. The Wi-Fi barely functioned, amplifying my profound helplessness. In a final, desperate act, I knew I had to bypass him entirely. My only hope was to reach out directly to the yacht's owner. A desperate plea into the isolating void. My desperate plea to the owner was my last hope to resolve the escalating tension. I had explained everything, sending crucial visa details. Thankfully, the owner understood, instructing the captain to disembark me in southern Spain, not Gibraltar. But the brief relief was fleeting. What followed was a truly terrifying descent into fear. As I ascended to the flybridge for my watch, the captain stalked behind me, his voice erupting in a furious roar. He declared my contact with the owner unacceptable, vehemently denying my prior attempts to speak with him, and absurdly insisting Gibraltar was Schengen, a blatant falsehood. His aggression escalated. He lunged for my phone twice. Then a chilling gesture, a raised hand, a clear threat to strike me. In that paralyzing instant, raw terror consumed me. We were utterly isolated. Just him, his partner, the chef, and me, adrift at sea. Desperate, I retreated, locking myself within my small cabin. My passport, my lifeline, was hidden, a small act of defiance. For an agonizing 20 hours, sleep was an impossible luxury, my mind racing until the blessed sight of Fuengirola, Spain, finally appeared. Only then did a fragile sense of safety begin to return. The experience was profoundly traumatizing. That night, a debilitating panic attack gripped me. I had never felt such profound vulnerability, such utter helplessness, a feeling that still haunts my deepest fears and leaves me forever changed. I kept quiet for too long, but this story still sends shivers down my spine. No one should ever feel unsafe at work, especially in an environment as isolated and intense as life at sea. Captains often wield immense power, and while demanding leadership is one thing, feeling truly threatened or trapped is entirely another. In a place where escape isn't an option, such situations become utterly terrifying. I share my experience because I know countless others in yachting, and indeed across many industries, have endured similar torment. Please always trust your deepest instincts. If something within you screams that something is wrong, you must speak up. Document every single detail. Never, ever let anyone intimidate you into silence. Has anyone else navigated such treacherous waters? How did you find your way back? A fellow commenter understood immediately. This individual was a textbook case of main character syndrome combined with explosive anger, a recipe for absolute disaster. That's not leadership, it's pure, unadulterated ego. He deserves to be blacklisted from this industry. My own heart echoes this sentiment. I am patiently awaiting my final payment, but the moment those funds clear, my report will be filed without hesitation. It pains me to acknowledge that abuse, particularly towards female crew members, often originates from older captains. They mistakenly believe their captain's license and perceived authority grant them an absolute right to control and mistreat. But they are wrong, they are so wrong. This reign of terror must end, the lingering terror of that voyage still clings, a cold shadow I'm determined to shed. I will report him, absolutely. It's infuriating how men like that captain, inflicting such trauma, often escape consequences. This time, I refuse to let it stand. I'm preparing to contact the appropriate yachting authorities, whoever oversees such blatant disregard for human safety and conduct. My next step? Inform the owner again, laying bare every horrifying detail. He surely wouldn't condone his yacht manned by such an unhinged individual. I hope he sees this man is unfit for command. The ordeal was a horrifying breach of trust. To feel utterly unsafe, trapped, and vulnerable, far from any familiar shore, with the cruel isolation of barely their Wi-Fi severing all connection to loved ones, it's a nightmare etched deep. The disrespect was a constant, suffocating weight. He gaslit me about my visa, despite clear explanations, an appalling manipulation. Going over his head felt like the only path to survival, a decision that likely saved me from a darker outcome. I'm convinced his attempt to force my disembarkation in Gibraltar was pure, calculated revenge for my decision to leave. I had informed him weeks earlier, in Corsica, that my departure would be the Balearic Islands or a specific port in Spain. He intentionally ignored my wishes, weaponizing my situation. The final insult? They still owe me money. This fight is far from over. I will ensure his actions do not go unpunished. I will not be silenced. We were off southern Spain. The captain, with chilling insistence, declared my disembarkation in Gibraltar. My heart pounded. He knew, he knew, that my Colombian passport and its visa restrictions made this utterly impossible. Yet he pushed, asserting his authority, trying to make me, a mere crew member, doubt my understanding of international law. It was a cruel power play, dominance disguised as navigation. My security he sought to compromise. The thought of his calculated cruelty still chills me. What if others fell prey to his manipulation? I wouldn't wish this vulnerability on anyone. Sailing the serene Mediterranean, my only solace was knowing my boyfriend in Italy, my lifeline. But what about others? Crew members facing peril without a single person to turn to, abandoned, alone? It casts a dark shadow over his past. I recall the previous crew, the South African woman. She lasted barely 20 days before vanishing. The captain casually claimed her mother became gravely ill, but his insidious behavior towards me, his disregard for my safety, made me question everything. His words now ring hollow, echoing deceit. Was her departure truly voluntary, or was she another casualty of his twisted authority, forced off? I fear the truth is far darker than he admits. This heavy memory still echoes with unsettling questions. A previous crew member fell ill. Days later, the captain said she left due to a shoulder injury. I believe she experienced something truly distressing, especially as it was her first boat. She was likely unprepared, lost, and didn't know how to navigate the sudden crisis. My heart aches for her vulnerability. This incident ignited a deep worry. What fate awaits their next hire? The boat's journey involves crossing the Atlantic, destined for the Caribbean. Imagine, they hire someone in Europe, bring her across an ocean, only for her to face a similar, or even worse, ordeal in a foreign land. My concern isn't just for her. It's for every past and future crew member unknowingly stepping into potential peril. Beyond the physical, there's a terrifying legal dimension. While some casually state I wouldn't have faced issues, that sentiment clashes with official facts. Official websites clearly state Colombians need a visa for certain places. Some suggested I'd simply be taken to an airport and flown out. Most countries do that, they claimed. But the chilling thought of being dropped in an unfamiliar country, undocumented and unsupported, with my passport requiring a specific visa, fills me with dread. It's not just an inconvenience, it's a terrifying prospect of being abandoned. This persistent uncertainty for all involved, past and future, continues to haunt me deeply. I never imagined my career on the high seas would descend into such a nightmare. I've kept quiet, but the sheer injustice still burns. I was working aboard a 20-meter motor yacht, a professional until my contract ended on October 15th. However, I quit prematurely on September 30th. Why? Annoying hunger, a truly toxic work environment, and the unsettling dynamic between the captain and chef. They were partners, not just professionally, but personally too. They'd routinely go ashore, leaving me alone on the boat. I was working, while they were enjoying themselves, shirking their responsibilities. My professional record is everything. I didn't want this stain. I travel extensively for both work and personal reasons, and I've never encountered issues in any country. I refuse to let this situation create one, purely because certain individuals refuse to discuss the matter to reach a fair agreement. Then, nearly 2 weeks later, on October 21, 2025, the ultimate betrayal unfolded. My captain brazenly attempted to leave me in a location I couldn't legally enter. A cruel trap. The contract, which once offered security, now felt like a cage, stipulating that I should give my all, even my safety, for their neglect. I never forgot their disregard, and I never will. This wasn't merely a job, it was a profound lesson. I usually received a mere 7 days' notice before the end of my contract, standard courtesy. Yet occasionally, flight tickets would arrive without warning, demanding my immediate repatriation the very next day. This time, the captain had other ideas. He insisted I remain for the full 7-day period, admitting he couldn't manage the navigation to the Canary Islands with just his partner. We were still in Corsica, a tranquil paradise, but his plan to reach the Canaries in just 7 days was absurdly ambitious. My designated disembarkation point was set for the Balearic Islands or the southern coast of Spain. Then the horror began. I explained, calmly but firmly, that disembarking in Gibraltar was utterly impossible. My Colombian passport, a detail he chose to ignore, mandated a visa, a document I simply did not possess. I believed he would understand, but instead my words ignited a terrifying stubbornness. From that moment, Gibraltar became his singular, unwavering demand. Every desperate attempt to reason, every piece of verifiable evidence I presented, was met with chilling contempt. He would dismiss my pleas, silence me with a harsh, dismissive glare, or treat me as if my concerns were utterly stupid. His arrogance was a suffocating weight. I knew, with bone-deep certainty, that disembarking in Gibraltar would spell catastrophe, not just for me, facing legal limbo, but for him, the captain, and for the yacht's very legality and reputation. Isolated and powerless, with barely any Wi-Fi connection, my urgent messages for help struggled to pierce the digital silence. The sense of dread tightened its grip. How could I escape this dangerous path? My future hung precariously, tethered to the whims of a man who refused to see the abyss he was leading us all towards. Each passing hour intensified my despair. The nightmare unfolded far from shore, a place where genuine help felt impossibly distant. With the management agency completely unresponsive on a Sunday, I had nowhere else to turn but the owner himself. Our brief conversation was my singular, desperate hope. I painstakingly sent him proof from the official website detailing my urgent need for a visa. To my profound relief, he truly understood. He contacted the captain, confirming my immediate disembarkation in southern Spain the very next day. A fleeting sense of peace settled over me, but it was a cruel, short-lived illusion. Just a few hours later, while on watch on the flybridge, the captain's demeanor curdled. His voice rose to a terrifying shout, shattering the quiet. Twice he lunged, attempting to snatch my phone from my grasp, his eyes burning with unfettered rage. Then, a chilling gesture, a clenched fist, a threatening motion aimed directly at my face. Fear, cold and absolute, gripped me. We were adrift, far from any land, with a signal barely strong enough to whisper for help. His aggression escalated, his partner a silent, complicit shadow by his side. My heart hammered uncontrollably. I fled to my cabin, frantically stashing my passport and all my valuable belongings. From that moment, every second was steeped in profound unsafety. More than 15 agonizing hours of navigation still stretched before us, an eternity of sheer vulnerability. I knew I needed irrefutable evidence. Providentially, I had already begun recording the entire con of our conversations with him grew tense days before the incident. I knew he'd deny everything, every harsh word, every petty threat. So I took matters firmly into my own hands, recording our exchanges, his furious shouting echoing in the flybridge. He declared, with chilling certainty, I'd likely forfeit my tip from the previous charter. It was, he insisted, at his discretion to bestow it upon me or not. I captured other revealing statements from his arrogant lips. The next day, I disembarked in Fuengirola, near Malaga, my departure heavy with unresolved anger. I then embarked on a strategic waiting game, needing my full pay before filing official reports. My targets: the owner, the management agency, and the flag state, in this instance, the Cayman Islands. The moment my payment cleared, I acted swiftly, submitting the report, just as many of you wisely advised. Now, for a crucial update, an added layer to this unfolding drama. I've chosen to bolster my report with irrefutable evidence, screenshots of emails with the consulate and maritime authorities of Gibraltar. This addition is potent because, for baffling reasons, the captain was utterly convinced Gibraltar was Spanish territory. Yet it unequivocally belongs to the UK. While discussions are underway for Gibraltar to join the Schengen area, a critical detail remains. As of today, Colombian nationals still require a visa for entry, a complex bureaucratic process typically spanning 2 months. I also included vivid screenshots of the desperate conversations I had with my boyfriend, my mom, and some colleagues, all experienced in this industry, well acquainted with its rules and procedures. These hurried exchanges, made difficult by the poor Wi-Fi connection we had, nonetheless clearly show my profound terror. I was terrified of facing immigration authorities and the police, terrified of tarnishing my travel history, which is critical for my frequent work and personal journeys, and utterly terrified of being physically harmed by the captain and his girlfriend. As I anticipated, the owner was the very first to respond to my report. He's a genuinely kind person. He confirmed receiving my detailed account, then immediately contacted the captain. Predictably, the captain vehemently denied everything, claiming I fabricated the entire story, alleging my only goal was to extort money through these lies. Yet, the owner listened. He listened intently as I recounted every horrifying detail, every moment of fear. I laid bare the truth, hoping for justice, desperate for him to comprehend the depth of my terror, and the stark reality of the threat I truly faced. This story still makes me shiver. I had secretly recorded the conversations, crucial evidence I initially withheld from my official report, certain he would deny everything. Then, the owner asked for those recordings. I forwarded them immediately. He listened, and we are set to speak again next week. This entire ordeal has left me feeling profoundly vulnerable, terrified, and deeply anxious. It is indeed a nightmare, and my sole desire is to ensure no one else ever endures such a harrowing experience. The management agency and the flag state, they have yet to respond. Frankly, I care little for their eventual statements. My focus is purely on preventing future harm. I strongly suspect this isn't his first offense. Many have urged me to reach out to the previous employee, who also quit in under 20 days. I'm convinced something happened to her while she was on board. Unfortunately, my information is scant. She is young, South African, and I only know her first name. Finding her feels like an impossible task. I can't predict what the owner will say, but my fervent hope is that he is fired. Subjecting someone to such a situation isn't just wrong, it's an act of pure evil. Especially because it became agonizingly clear that he abuses the immense authority he wields over young women, particularly those navigating a foreign country while desperately trying to earn a living. The most despicable part, his partner stands by him, complicit in every vile, shameful act. My heart pounded as I considered the advice I'd received, confirming my deep resolve. Your words were truly amazing and profoundly helpful, and I felt compelled to share this vital update. Many have commended my courage, acknowledging the immense difficulty of standing up to such an old, entitled bully. There's a shared hope that the owner will be utterly appalled by his conduct and finally remove this blatant liability. I am so truly grateful for the incredible support. Some voices urged me to simply take my money and forget the whole ordeal. But I couldn't. I would carry an unbearable burden of guilt if I didn't try to intervene, knowing full well this predatory cycle would almost certainly repeat with someone else. Others echoed my gut-wrenching feelings, understanding that men on power trips inevitably reveal their true, ugly colors. They respected my unwavering decision to stand my ground and not let this insidious behavior slide. At this crucial juncture, it's undeniably more than just about me, or even the other girl involved. It's about every single person he might ever try to exploit. That audio evidence, I believe, will be absolutely key. This incident, though it feels like an eternity ago, still sends shivers down my spine. I endured a captain who was nothing short of a tyrant, a man I genuinely hoped would face severe repercussions, perhaps even termination. The confrontation itself was a stark reminder of a communication flaw I've encountered repeatedly. I stood my ground, armed with undeniable facts. I legally cannot step off this vessel without a valid visa, I explained, presenting irrefutable confirmation. But he scoffed, fueled by an arrogant entitlement. I feel like you should be able to, he retorted, so then you should. It was a bewildering exchange, logic colliding head-on with unreasoning emotion. A wise person once advised me, and it became my golden ticket. You will drive yourself utterly insane trying to argue logic with someone who speaks purely from emotion. This resonates deeply, not just on that boat, but in other challenging environments. I've worked in male-dominated fields where dismissive comments like, "women just aren't good at XYZ," are alarmingly common. Despite my best efforts to present compelling statistics, or even stating, I am demonstrably the most proficient individual here, boasting the lowest error rate and highest output. The data is published weekly. My words often fell on deaf ears. I'm meticulously recording everything, as suggested, hoping for a just resolution. Karma, they say, is a fierce mistress, and I pray for the day this captain's metaphorical ship finally sinks. Stay safe and know I'm relying on your support. I've learned that some arguments are not about facts. They're deeply rooted in emotion. When people incessantly repeat themselves, often, what they're truly expressing is a subjective feeling, a belief like, "women aren't good at X logic," I've found, is utterly useless against such emotional conviction. I share this wisdom to safeguard your peace of mind and spare you unnecessary anguish. If your logical points are met with a vacant stare and a rote repetition of their initial stance, understand this. You are communicating in different realms, and further debate is futile. On a crucial note, an update has unfolded since my initial account. I felt it essential to share this development, which arrived on October 28, 2025. It reveals another layer of frustration in my ongoing struggle, a new twist I hadn't anticipated. The owner, a perpetually busy individual, remains on another continent, making a direct meeting impossible. I finally received a response from the management agency, but it was far from what I expected. Instead of addressing my concerns, their anger was palpable. Their fury stemmed solely from my decision to record our previous conversation. Their argument, predictably, hinged on the assertion that he's simply a tense legal challenge weighs on me. As a French citizen, I face scrutiny. France bans recording without consent. I argued the recording occurred in Spanish waters, where, like Colombia, it is legal. Spain confirms this. Their only response? Dismissal. My evidence, they claimed, wouldn't count as proof. No other communication followed. Undeterred, I sent the report to the flag state, Cayman Islands. Confirmation arrived, no update since. The fight continues in silence.